You got to go to twitter.com/Jackie Martling, and you got to view this stupid joke and pass it to friends. It's a great joke. It's worth the trip. I'm going through my Rolodex. I'm texting everybody because not that I get a prize or anything, but I want to get to 1 million. And I'm close, man. I'm 13,000 away.
985, you said?
Use your finger. Use your finger.
I'm going to give you an update. Yeah, use your damn thing. I'm going to give you an update. Look at this. Red hot on the air.
Coker is your middle name?
Ow! Ow!
What?
Ow!
What happened?
You broke it?
1.1 million.
It's like the Jerry Lewis telethon here.
I'm not making it up. It just happened.
Oh, man.
See what happens when you come on our show, Jackie?
The show isn't even on the air yet, and it hit.
That was a real moment, Jay. That was a real moment we just had. I had no idea.
I'm very happy for you. Very proud of you.
It means nothing.
No.
Like everything else in my life.
Welcome to Comedy Centric, your place for all things comedy. Every week, we'll discuss the legends and the people who built the business. The performers, writers, behind the scenes, and stories that you have never heard. So relax, take a load off, and join us for this episode of Comedy Centric. Now, the host of your show, nationally headlining comedian, a woman with a wicked sense of humor and a killer Jersey accent, Julia Scotti.
Hi. Crap. You guys missed what was going on before.
It's going to be a great show. I'm already annoyed with you. So
I know. And it only took, we did it in
4 minutes. 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Record
How you doing,
time.
Kathy? This is Kathy Colwell, because she always gets pissed that I don't introduce her.
Well, you don't.
It's right in the title of the show. Julie Scotti and Kathy
No,
Colwell.
it isn't.
Yes, it is.
Oh, not
Yes,
on the
Jimmy.
intro. I'm
Jimmy
going to have
can tell
somebody recut that intro.
Yeah, you should.
I'm going to.
Uh-huh.
I'm on it.
All right. How you doing, baby girl?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. You like my lights? You like my
I
lights?
do like your lights. They're
They're my holiday lights.
Well, you should bring that screen like so it's your backdrop, and we could,
Wait, like this?
You-
No.
No, move over now. You got to move over now, so you're in the center. All right, there you go.
Oh my God, this is nice. Okay.
All right, you got it. You should have done this before, but okay. All right. Well, all right. Jimmy told me my light looks better this week too, guys.
Oh, good.
Oh, you didn't notice, so apparently not.
My ear thing fell out. Don't say anything important.
No, I never do.
I'm new. I'm new to broadcasting. Sorry.
Okay. So this week we were talking about my bamboo toilet paper, right? But I guess what I did this week, I ordered garbage bags that decompose after you put them out.
How long?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Well, aren't you concerned? Like, is it a
It's
month?
not thousands of years, if that's what you mean.
Was it 30 days?
I don't know. All right, when it comes, I'll ask the company. So
Like in a McDonald's cup?
you know what? Sorry I brought it up. Hey, guess what? Guess what? We are planning our Christmas party show.
We are.
Move over a little bit more. Move over
Wait,
a little bit more.
you know what? Let me go
Okay,
back.
that's good. That's fine. Yeah,
I can't
that's fine.
because my thing's over here. My chair is
Okay.
over here.
We are
All right,
going
we'll
to.
worry about the lighting.
Okay.
Okay. Go
We're
ahead.
going to record in the studio. We're going to where Jimmy is.
Right.
Yeah, and we're going to have music and old friends from the days of Julie Scotti's Comedy Test Kitchen are coming. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, good. It'll be
So that'll
fun.
be-
We
yeah.
got pictures.
Huh?
Pictures?
Well, yeah, we'll take pictures, play Pictionary. We'll do anything with the word picture in it.
Okay.
But speaking of pictures,
Yeah.
do you know who this guy is? Do you know him?
I know that guy.
Everybody knows him. Jackie, I've known Jackie Martling since 1980, and I'll tell you why. And everybody that is in America knows who he is. And he was graciously agreed to come on tonight, and I can't wait to talk to him. And so why don't we just bring him on? You ready? You want to introduce him? Oh, there he is.
Oh,
this
look, and he came by way of statue.
He's in his wheelchair. He's got his walker. He's coming over.
I don't know if I want to do the show.
Why?
Because the opening 2 minutes, you talked about a party, and I didn't hear anything about me getting invited. Oh, we're going to have such a nice Christmas party.
You didn't invite
It's gonna be
Jackie?
so fun. No, of course you didn't.
Well, wait a minute. Just back off, pal. First of all, are you going to come to Philadelphia if we have this party?
I was born and bred in Philadelphia.
No,
I
you
made
weren't.
my
You were born-
bones. I was headlining in Philadelphia 4 years before I met Howard Stern.
Oh my God!
You
Well, it's
used to
going
work,
to do.
I used to work the comedy.
I
Works,
know
the
you were
Comedy
with John.
Factory Outlet, Bananas. The yeah.
I know John DeBella. I know. Oh, I know. All right, so
Come on.
I'm gonna.
You think I'm coming all the way to Philadelphia for a stupid party?
So what? That's why I didn't. It's not a stupid
Of course
party.
I'll come.
Okay.
Are we having
Of course I'll
booze? We're gonna have
Now
booze.
tell me about your co-host. Do I know you? Do I
Well,
feel
let
like
her
I
tell
met
you
you?
about. I'll tell you. This is Kathy Caldwell is her name. She's
Hi.
a comedian, and she's also a broadcaster on a gigantic radio station in Philadelphia, which I can't name. But let her talk.
Why can't you name it?
Well, I used to be a broadcaster. Now I'm a manager for Odyssey.
That means nothing to me. Is that magic? Is that
No.
YSP?
The
Is
old
it-
Intercom.
Just tell them what station.
Oh, is that like the two cans with
KYW?
the-
Yeah, KYW News Radio.
I don't know any of them.
See,
I just
you said you knew.
I just know the last time I was on the air in Philadelphia.
Where was
I
it?
guess there's 4 stations in one, and one of the 4 stations, the host was John DeBella. And
Oh,
all
yeah, I
three-
remember that.
All 3 stations took me for an interview, except DeBella. I was promoting a
I
big show in
wonder
Philly.
why.
You know my history. I knew him from the 70s. Did you know
Well,
that?
if you'd let me get started here, I want to go
What?
back to the history.
Oh, we rolling yet?
Yeah, we are. Didn't you hear the music? We just started the
I
goddamn
know. I
show.
saw the whole intro and everything. I heard her bitch and moan that she wasn't in it enough. You know, I let her do her thing. You know,
So,
Thanks. You know
you
what?
and
I was
I-
going to compliment you.
just don't take anything I say seriously.
I'm not
ever,
going
and we'll
to.
Be fine.
All
Okay,
right, good.
all right. So
I'll compliment you later.
You look great.
Me?
I'm talking to her.
Me.
Oh. Well, we said don't take it seriously. All right, listen. I'm,
You're catching on. You are catching on, Julia. Barbara sends her love.
Say hi to Barbara. Why isn't she there with you? Is she there with you?
She's upstairs. I think she might be having a little fun with herself.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a much better show than what we're doing here. All right.
How
So
you know I'm
I
not?
go.
You don't even-
I go back to 1980 with you.
Wow.
All right. To the Jade Fountain Restaurant in Paramus, New Jersey.
Oh my God! At every show, she comes back to this fucking place, the Jade Fountain
But
Restaurant.
In this case,
It's like in the beginning, God created heaven
That's
and
right.
earth and the Jade Fountain.
and Helen is
I
created.
got a whole book worth, you know. Have
But
we
that's
talked
where I
about this
first met
before?
you.
Bob Wood's getting chased by the Chinese chef with
That's
the
right.
butcher knife, and
So you didn't hear that story, did you, Kat?
Now, why don't you go ahead?
I was there that night. All right. So this Chinese restaurant was the very first comedy club outside of New York, produced by a guy named Hal Ennis, Comedy Caravan. And Jackie was, I think you hosted the first couple of shows, right?
yeah, it was. And I came with a carload of people, and it was a bunch of Long Island guys, and I had Dave Hawthorne drove, and I was in the car, and Eddie Murphy and his buddy Clint Smith, but Rob Bartlett and Kevin Sullivan and you.
Wow.
There used to be like 12 people on the bill.
Well,
like
we
Rick
have that
Overton.
piece of paper, that yellow piece of paper.
The last time I broke that out, I got in so much trouble because
Why?
I named your name before your name was your name.
Who gave you trouble?
Well, yeah, everybody. I got emails.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well,
Wow.
people like to have a little fun with me anyway. So
I didn't know that. Wow.
You got Jackie in trouble. You happy, Julia?
No, because I put that.
I'm thrilled. I was thrilled.
Any PR is good PR.
That's right. But I put it up on Facebook. Nobody said anything. Everybody knows what my dead name is.
Yeah, I had never heard that expression. You dead name Julia. I'm like, well,
Really?
it's dead name. I'll dead name your mom.
Hey, watch it. My mother's
Jackie
name
was in the Julia Scotti documentary.
That's right. You were.
Funny that way.
He doesn't
Why am
remember.
Yes. Why is this not show? Oh, it's over here.
Okay.
Oh,
I can't see it. Too much
late.
glare.
Yeah,
A
you
lot
can't.
of glare.
To
I think we have it. Jim Corhan has it.
We can't see it, honey.
You know,
Jimmy?
I saved that piece of paper because Hal Ennis or his father misspelled Gilbert Gottfried, Jerry Seinfeld, and Eddie Murphy. He misspelled all of them.
Oh, you didn't write that?
No, that's the reason my name isn't on that list. Is I was handed that as the list of people I had to bring up when I was emceeing.
Oh, wow.
And Bob Woods and Dave Hawthorne were on the show, and Hal Ennis came up to us in the diner after the show. And he said, "How'd the show go, Jack?" Yes, because I was kind of in charge with his father running it. Because this guy, Hal Ennis, did rock and roll shows where he dressed up as a greaser and played Dean on the Belmonts.
Right.
And I said, "Oh, the show was so good, Hal." He said, "Well, then why did my father come to me in tears?" He said, "When the last acts were on, Woods and Hawthorne wanted to go get drunk, so they started taking down the banner in back of the act while he was still on."
You gotta give these people some background on Woodsy.
Bob Woods was a 350-pound, absolutely incorrigible, very funny maniac. And Dave Hawthorne weighed almost as much, but he was about a foot taller, so he didn't seem as fat. And they were my guys. Me and those two maniacs. There was a group that King Broder, a booker on Long Island, put together. Eddie Murphy and Bob Nelson and Rob Bartlett, and they were called the Identical Triplets. The joke being that Eddie was black.
Right.
And they became an instant success. So King Broder decided he was going to recreate that. You know, they say that Hollywood is made out of people that wait for lightning to strike and then run over to that spot waiting for it to strike again. Okay, that's how people do stuff. So King Broder's going to have another 3-man group. So me and Hawthorne Woods spent 2 entire drunk afternoons trying to name. We're not practicing. We spent 2 minutes practicing, and then we named our group. And the group name we came up with was the Rolling Clones. We had like 2 gigs before everybody said.
I never heard of the Rolling Clones.
I wish I had the list of the names that we kept. One of the ones I remember was the 3 Must Have Beers. But we were all on that show, and Woods was very, very drunk and was standing around, and he was smoking. He was so drunk, and the owner or the chef came out in the lobby where he was standing, and Woods is like cursing and blah, blah, blah. He says, and the guy came out and said, "Oh, please watch your language. Very young people around here." And Woods said, "Don't worry, pal." And he turned to us and he said, "Fucking chink." Next thing you know, the chef is chasing us with a butcher knife, and I'm running, but I'm carrying a Fender
through the restaurant. Oh God.
And that became one of the famous stories of my life, is that we took Bill Maher was on the show, and we took Bill Maher home, and on the way on the cobblestones taking Bill Maher to the west side, Hawthorne's muffler fell out of his car, and we're drunk as hell, and I'm underneath I know it sounds like I'm making this stuff up. I'm underneath the car, and I tied up the red hot muffler with a guitar string. And then we're riding home on the Southern State Parkway, and the goddamn muffler fell off again. Hawthorne pulls up. There's no shoulder. The Southern State Parkway is this wide in the shoulder. And I'm underneath the red hot. Now the muffler's really hot. And I'm drunk, and I'm trying to tie it up. And Eddie Murphy and Clint are in the back seat goofing on Hawthorne about what a lousy car. They get a free ride there and back, and they are fucking with him about his rotten car, and I'm underneath. And that's the night in Roosevelt, they were working on Eddie Murphy's block, so there were like some holes in the road, and Hawthorne knew that he'd lose his muffler if he drove down that bump. So we let Eddie Murphy and Clint off at the end of the road, and the whole time I was on the Stern Show, they used to say, if Hawthorne had drove that extra 100 yards, Martling would be in the movies. And Clint's a friend of mine. I talked to him on the phone. He said him and Eddie laugh about that all the time. I said, and you laugh about the part that they never did anything to help nobody that best. But
but you got it. Come on, your life took a really good turn.
I worked hard, but got very lucky. You know.
And I want to stop there for a second because once I got into comedy, I began to become really aware of you, not by working with you, but by the stickers I used to see on the toll booths on the Jersey Turnpike and the Guard State Parkway. He had these.
Julia, I swear to God, I could write a whole book about the stories about those stupid stickers. You know, I'm sure why.
Well, let me explain while you're looking. Let me
Yeah,
explain.
yeah.
Jackie was a marketing genius. He still is, but in the early '80s, he saw the value of using mass media, in this case, the telephone, to sell his product.
Yeah,
So
we
he
didn't
had-
have anything. We didn't have mass media.
No, we didn't. But he had a phone,
Mhm.
and he had this dial a joke line, which I think he still has,
Yeah.
right? And
Well, he took his headset off.
Oh, he took his headset off.
Yeah.
And he'd have these.
Got him.
There is, and every toll booth had one of these stickers on it, and it says "Use your finger," and he would make money by people calling this number.
No.
No?
That's what's so great. People like, wow, you probably retired. Let me tell you,
Okay.
we were working at a place called Richard M. Dixon's White House Inn, which was a variety show.
Right.
That's where I met Eddie Murphy and Bartlett and Hawthorne,
Right.
all the guys. And he wouldn't pay us. Dixon wouldn't pay us. And Julia, you'll love
Where
this.
was this?
This
Long
is
Island.
in Hicksville on Long Island.
Okay.
Julia, the night I met Bob Woods, we were both on the show at Richard M. Dixon's, and he wouldn't pay us. But he gave us free beers. So you know Woods and you know me. So the place is empty except for Dixon and his wife. But me and Woods are sitting at the bar because we're going to get our goddamn
Money's worth.
money's worth. And we're sitting there drinking. And Dixon Richard M. Dixon was a guy who had his face surgically changed to look like Richard M. Nixon.
Oh, I didn't
This is the
know
honest
that.
to God truth.
Was that his real name or?
Yeah, that's still up for grabs.
Okay.
But his place, it was a little bar, almost in a house called Richard M. Dixon's White House Inn. He had his face surgically changed. He actually did a few things. If you Google it, you can find.
Wasn't Messina? Messina was the bartender there, right? Wasn't he?
No, he was same idea, but not there. But at
Okay.
the same time, Messina was the bartender at one of the places we did
Okay.
this. After we left, let me, you're getting ahead of
Yeah. Go ahead.
We do this show, and he gives us $5 and beer. So me and Woods, I just met this guy. So we're having our first beers together, plenty of them. We're pounding them down, and we're laughing. And Dixon's wife, Maddie, is all pissed off. She wants to go home. And Dixon, so Dixon gets so frustrated, he gets a plastic bus box and starts going around putting the glasses in the bus box, right? And I turned to Woods and I said, you know what? I think it's time to go. I'm so drunk, the fucking bus boys are starting to look like Nixon. And Woods said, you're all right, pal. You're all right. And
We
best friends. But Dixon would not pay us. So me and Richie Minervini started a show at Cinnamon, which was a little restaurant in Huntington. In a restaurant. They're going to give us one night a week, and we're going to put on a show and charge money, and we'll get the money, and they get the booze and the stuff. But we got no money. We got no way of getting the
You just
word
got
out.
booze.
So I got the bright idea. I'll get a phone line, and I'll tell a joke, and then I'll say where we're performing, and then I'll tell another joke, which is the theory of television and radio. You hear the joke, you want to hear another joke, you got to sit through the ad. And I can still remember where I was on my way up to the attic, which my mother's attic was the first joke land. And I said, I used my finger, and it just struck. I mean, Fred Norris from the Stern Show is still laughing at that because he thinks it's so brilliant. And instantly it was busy.
Mhm.
And all my stories sound like such lies, but Julie.
No. I can. You got to remember, Kat. This is 1980-ish. When there was no clubs at all.
And
anywhere.
nobody's heard of a comedy club.
Right.
And we got no money, no way to advertise, but this is going to be something free. So I decide it's busy all the time. I got to get a second line. So I called the phone company. Now, if you work at the phone company, anything where you work at a certain job, anything to do with that, everybody knows what's going on. So I called up and said, hello, I need to get a second line that bounces off of my first line. And they said, I'm sorry, we cannot do that. You're not in a business. I'm in my mother's attic. You're not in a business zone. We can't do a rollover. I said, come on. The guy's like, wait a minute. Are you the guy with the jokes? And I said, yeah. And he went and talked to the foreman or something. He came back and says, yeah, we'll give you the second line.
Wow.
A week later, a month later, however much longer, I called up and said, I got to get more lines. They said, we got to come there. The foreman came to my mother's attic because they were so curious. And it was phone mate answering machines with 1 minute
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
cassettes.
yeah.
And you push the button and you did a minute. And when I got the second one, you pushed the buttons and did a minute. When I got 4 of them, my fingers just reached the 4 start.
So wait a minute, you had somebody would call, they'd get the recording. You had to be there to rewind it?
No.
To hit play.
I got 4 answering machines.
Right.
So to record the 1 minute joke, I had to hit record.
Okay.
So I hit all 4 at the same time and then did my spiel. This is Jackie the Joke Man. Thanks for using your finger. We're going to be at the Cinnamon in Huntington. Why the chicken cross the road? But if I made a mistake, I had to wait for it to finish and do it again. Okay. So it was crazy. But they were a rollover machine. So if you called number 1, then somebody else called, it rolled over to the second one. And then if somebody called, it rolled to the third one. By the time that was too much, my future ex-wife, Nancy, came to work with me. We got 6 machines. I called them out. I said, I need more lines. A different foreman came to the house because they're so curious. They can't believe this thing. Though I kept phone mate and company in business long after they should have been gone. I had it got to the point where so Nancy now had to make copies because I couldn't do it with the thing. So she's making 1 minute copies. Then I called them. I said, I got to have more lines. They said, Jackie, by now we're best buddies. We'll give you 10, but that's it. And I had 10 machines lined up, all plugged in. And it was something to behold. The way it worked is if you called, you got the first machine. Then if you called, the second one would go off. Then if somebody else called, the third would go off. But it was only 1 minute long. So if in the course of, say, the 4th call, the first one's done, the next call goes to the first line. So in other words, the 10th line doesn't go off unless all 9 are going at the same time within 1 minute. Wow. And the 10th machine was Nancy's that had a counter on it that went to 99. And each day, the counter, we had to reset it like 3 or 4 times, which means it went to 99. Now you can imagine the slope of how many calls had to come for all 9 to be going, for that to click over to 99. It was a phenomenon, but I didn't make it. It was people calling my mother's house. It was like people calling my mother's. People thought I was making money. It cost me a fortune. It's still going.
How did you make your money? By the advertisers, or did you have enough?
No, by going and telling my dick jokes and paying Hawthorne $40 and Woods $40, and
I wanted to get back to the stickers because I'm a baby comic.
Oh, so that's.
Boy, let me just set this up. I'm a baby comic. I'm going up and down the parkway, going up the turnpike. Every fucking toll booth I see, it's got one of these stickers on it. Maybe sometimes more than one. And
because I gave them to all the guys, and all the guys put them everywhere.
And I'm like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? and you were really kind of a role model for me as far as marketing goes. I mean, I never had the discipline to do what you were doing, but boy, oh boy, you were like the role model for every comic out there.
We did. Me and Nancy would sit there and put packages together. I can't even tell you. Well, we got an order from Adam and Eve, which is now a huge semi-porn company.
Yeah.
There's a little mailing house in North Carolina. They ordered 28 tracks. This is North Carolina, so they're 3 years behind us. So nobody has 8 tracks. We handmade them, hand recorded 8 tracks with my first LP. It's
Oh my gosh.
it was just so much fun, so much
So
fun. And these stickers, it got to be where I did crazy shit. The best one, there was a girl in the Fort Lauderdale comic strip, was an infamous place where we
I
went
worked
just
there, yeah.
nuts and got so drunk and had so much fun. And there was a girl that used to have a bunch of pretty girlfriends, and we'd all over there and get drunk, and we'd try and get laid, but usually we wouldn't, but we'd have fun. So I go into her bathroom to take a leak, and I'm silly with these stickers. So I lifted up the top of the toilet, and the top inside the toilet. The water is up about yay high, and there's about this much space above it. So I put a sticker there, okay, and put the top back on. And I think it was Mike Reynolds. I don't think he called me up. He said, Martling, I just almost had a fucking heart attack. We were over at Yonit's on New Year's Eve, and there was so many people. And the girls came out and said, oh, the toilet's overflowing. And I walked in. I took the top off the toilet, and I saw you stickers that almost
Use your
heart
finger.
attack. That's the best story of them all.
Oh man!
What were the odds
guy
somebody was ever going to take that off?
What was the name of the guy that ran that club? He was an Irish guy. He was
Richie Tinkin.
No.
Oh, Joe Mullen was the general.
Joe Mullen. That's the guy.
Little angry
Yeah,
Joe Mullen.
this guy would come up to
threw
you.
out a heckler and then threw out his wheelchair on top of him.
But he would tell you when he wanted to tell you how much time to do, he'd just go to you. I want you to go up there and eat some clock. Eat some clock. I never
He's the only guy I ever met in my entire life that referred to women as tomatoes, not trying to be funny. He was a boy from the Bronx. He says, I don't know, this tomato last night was in here. And he wasn't doing shtick. He was, like I'd say I met a girl last night. I saw this tomato last night. I made you laugh every time. He
reminded me a little bit of Bobby, the maitre d' from Dangerfields. Do you remember him, Bobby?
Because they're all such characters,
Well, Dangerfields was known for these. Everybody that worked there was right out of Central casting. But Bobby was a bruiser. He's from Liverpool, I think, wasn't he?
Right. He's British.
He was a leg breaker. This guy could kill you. I mean, you walk into Bobby, you go, hey, Bobby, he goes, what do you want, you fucking bastard, dude?
I got the only doorman in the world. You walk in as a couple, and he says, 2?
Yeah.
Tony. You know Tony Bavacqua, right?
Yeah, I know Tony, sure.
He's alive, and I'm trying to help him do something. He wants to do the story of Dangerfields.
Well, Tony was
intriguing. They were dealing with the mob and
let's tell them who Tony was. Tony was the actual owner of Dangerfields. Rodney, I think,
it was Rodney's partner.
Right, it was Rodney's partner. But Tony had an office down in the bowels of that.
Oh God!
What a place!
I'll tell you a horrible, horrible story. This is another not believable story. My claim to fame with the Florida comic strip was I brought Rodney there. I had never worked there, but I went with Rodney for 2 weeks, which is I'm still telling stories about. We went to Fort Lauderdale, and then we went to Las Vegas, where he was headlining with Paul Williams. So we go out to see. Do you know who Louis Nye is from the
Sure,
Steve
yeah.
Allen show? So we go to see Louis Nye's one-man show, and I said, Rodney, there's a new comedy club here in town. We should stop in. He says, yeah, well, we'll ask Louis. I don't know if Louis, he's going to be our guest, So Louis Nye was all about it. So I'm driving the car with Louis Nye, Rodney Dangerfield, Dangerfield's daughter, his son, and his daughter's friend. And we wind up on A1A in the middle of stop and go traffic. It's spring break in Fort Lauderdale. If they had looked in and saw Rodney, I mean, they didn't know him that well in 1980, but they knew him pretty well. So I found my way to the comic strip, and the place had just kind of started, and it was Easter time. So it was, to call a spade, it was Pussy Central, and so much fun down there. So all the guys wanted to work. So the 3 guys that were working would stay over, and the 3 guys coming in would get there early. So I come walking into the Florida comic strip, and it's Paul Reiser, Glenn Hirsch, Dennis Wolfberg, Peter Bales, Bob Nelson, and I'm missing somebody. And I come walking in, and there's Riser. He's like, "Hey, Paul, how you doing?" And then he looks, and behind me is Rodney, and Riser's eyes go, "Whoa!" And then Louis Nye, which is like the cream, and like what the? And then Paul, I'll never forget. Riser said, "You arranged this?" So we have a great time. That the Joe Mullen couldn't believe I had Rodney in there, and we go in to watch the show. And Louis Nye goes nuts for Bob Nelson, and he's standing up dancing to Bob Nelson's act. He was a flamer, you know, and we had so much fun. And the crowd, imagine you're a crowd in Fort Lauderdale in 1980. Oh, we got a special guest coming up. And Rodney walks up. I mean,
I'm trying to think of what Kathy would know Louis Nye for.
on the old Steve Allen show.
Yeah, but
I don't think he did anything of note after that she would know.
He would show up in character bits like
Right.
whenever they needed a Paul Lynde kind of character.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like a flamer on Steve Allen. He'd do Man on the Street. And
Wow.
Go, right. Hi, host Steve Areno. You know,
That's right.
Right.
It's a great character. But that and Richie Tinkin, the owner, was there.
So we're now like 6 minutes into your career, and this show, I guess, is going to run a day and a half here, right? So by the time we get to the rest of your life,
I talk too much.
No, you don't. You don't talk enough.
Yeah, but this is the whole. The first year is everything. The next 40 years is bull. You know,
All right.
that was so much crazy fun down there, and so I was always in good with Richie Tinkin, because comics, you know, are like moths to a flame. Once Rodney knew that was there, anytime he was ever in Fort Lauderdale on vacation with his kids, he'd find his way to that club so he could get up and get his laughs and, you know, get his yayas off, you know. And
isn't it interesting that no matter how big and famous you are, you never get tired of that? Just you pop into a club and you go up in due time. It's just weird. It's
so many things are so stay the same. Like, Rodney hosted Saturday Night Live. Now, he was Rodney. He killed, you know. In a million years, I would never have taken it on myself to call up and say, "Hey, boss, you were really good on Saturday Night Live. Like, who the fuck are you?" You know?
Yeah.
So he calls me up and says, "Hey, how you doing? Did you see Saturday Night Live?" I said, "Yeah." "Well," I said, "What? You were great." "Why the fuck didn't anybody say anything? Nobody said nothing." He still needs that.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes,
And
we all
I
do.
couldn't believe it. Like, you know, he's asking me for my seal of approval. Another eye opener. He's a star. Now he's a star because he had been on the Dean Martin show and Carson, but that was only once every couple months. And then Dean Martin, it was like once a week for 5 minutes. But when I first started hanging with him, he was on the Miller Lite commercials.
Okay.
So he was on TV every 5 minutes with every major sports star promoting Miller. He was like, "I can't believe it. Everybody fucking knows me now. Hey, Rodney. Hey, Rod, I can't believe it." So he's absolutely thrilled with that. And we get to Las Vegas, and we're walking down the hallway of the airport, and some celebrity makes the announcements, whatever, for JetBlue. We didn't know JetBlue back then, but whatever. He says, "You hear that? They got celebrities doing the announcements." That was my fucking idea. You know, that was my idea. So, it was. So it's fun. So we get to the Aladdin Hotel. I still can't. We got out of the limo, walked into the lobby. The first thing he did was run over to the ticket booth and said, "How are sales? How are sales?"
Yeah.
Like he's worrying. I'm like, it never ends.
I do that every
Here he
time
is,
I go to a
the biggest
place.
star in the world. But he was Rodney Dangerfield. Like, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? But he did.
He needed
While we're on
to.
the subject of him, while we're on the subject of Rodney, do you remember Danny Stone?
So well.
Okay. Were you around when they did the commercial? Okay, let me give the background here.
We're driving I know he's in a.
Okay.
Go ahead. I know what happened. Go ahead.
Okay, there was a comedian named Danny Stone, and he was a character. But his
He
one
passed
claim
away,
to,
right? I think he passed away.
yeah, he did pass away.
Yeah.
But his claim to fame was he did Rodney better than Rodney. You could not tell the difference between Danny doing Rodney doing Rodney.
But it had nothing to do with Danny, though. He had the exact same pipes.
Yeah, exactly.
He
Exactly.
wasn't doing an impression. He was talking.
But he would use Rodney's material. So he never had even right material. So he gets this commercial, right, where he's supposed to impersonate Rodney. Now I'm going to turn the story over to Jackie at that point. Do you remember what happened?
I don't know the details. I know that he had one tiny role in a movie where he was driving a hansom cab, right, whatever. And then he was doing these commercials, and I don't know if they sued him, but he had to identify himself at the end of the commercial. He said, "Yeah, how you doing? Oh, yeah, you got to try this soup. It's the greatest soup. I'm telling you, it's that soup. You'll love the soup. Oh, my name's not Danny Stone."
That's right. That's how good this impression was. Because when he first started doing it, he didn't say that. And they sued him. They made it.
Yeah, because it was
wow.
Do you remember the whole thing with Barry Mitchell? Do you know who that is?
Doing Woody Allen.
Barry Mitchell used to get hired to go to parties.
Okay,
he didn't look anything like him. He's a little nerdy looking guy. And they say, "Oh, that's Woody Allen over there." And Woody Allen sued him. And it was on the front page of the Post. Both the pictures, they don't look anything alike. It was
No, they don't.
Oh my gosh.
So, all right. So
Such
we have to talk about your years with Howard Stern.
And I gotta, Jackie, I gotta say, huge fan, like, of everything. But
I love, what you got to do is you have to send me send me your street address and let me send you a copy of my autobiography, because if you like the Stern Show, you will eat this up. I guarantee you.
Wait, you didn't offer
I'm
that
not
to
selling
me.
you one. I'm giving you one. What?
You didn't offer that to me.
Shut up, Julie. I'm asking Jackie a question.
I'm sending them to both of you. And then I'm going to quiz you, you son of a bitch. You won't read one page.
Oh, no, I read it all.
No, but the whole thing, all right? So
absolutely. Oh,
wait, let her ask her question,
it's not even a question, it's a statement. And I want to know.
Wait 1 second. So you use your finger and the dial joke and all that stuff. And then they find out they're starting a second comedy club on Long Island. Let's get the guy with the dirty jokes. I did the dirty jokes. Nancy comes to work with me. Now we got 10 machines. And I put out an album after I've been a comedian 6 months. I put out an album because I was a musician and knew how to do that because I worked at a music studio for like 5 years. So I put out an album and me and Nancy sent it to everybody. We'd had no money. These are real albums, cost a fortune. Then I did a second album. Sent them to everybody. Then we did a third one, and we were sending 3 albums with the 3 matching cassettes and all the promo. If I met you on the street and you said, "Hey, how you doing? My uncle's got a comedy club, or my cousin has a party." I would take your address. Me and Nancy sent out over 300 packages of 3 records, 3 cassettes, and all the promo, and one of them went to Howard Stern. Wow. And that's how that whole thing got started. It was the clearest case of how much crap you throw against the wall.
Fishing. You were fishing.
And my
was
shit
he on
stuck to Howard
NBC
Stern.
at the time, right? He was at NBC?
What happened was I was working at do you remember a place named Garvin's in Washington, D.C.?
In D.C., yeah, sure.
I'm working for Harry Montecruz in Washington, D.C. And he says, "Jackie, you know what? There's a DJ that used to do broadcasts in his underwear from the club here on Friday mornings. He just got fired from DC 101, but he got hired at NBC. You really should look him up because I know you guys would hit it off." So when I got home, I just put Howard Stern, NBC. I didn't know who the guy was. I didn't listen to the radio. I listened to, the Eagles. I was a hippie. I still had a ponytail, and just we sent the stuff. It could have wound up in the dead letter office. He might have thrown it away. And then like a couple of months later, Nancy called me up from our house where we're now living. I'm still in my mother's attic. I said, "Hey, that disc jockey Howard Stern wants you to call him." And I called up and he got right on the phone and said, "Hey, we're doing a talent contest over the telephone today. Do you want to come in and be a judge? We love your albums. You know every joke in the world." I said, "Sure." And I went in and sat there for 4 hours and laughed like a maniac. And at the end of 4 hours, Howard said, "You're a lot of fun. Why don't you come back next week?" So I came back the next week for 3 years for free.
Oh, wow.
So I dug in.
Yeah,
I dug my heels in. And along the way, I'm throwing them, giving them ideas. And not by 1986, we're going to mornings. I said, okay, I'll be the head writer. And they said, well, how are you the head writer? I said, well, I'm the last one that decides what goes in front of Howard. Well, Fred's a writer. I said, yeah, but he got to hand it to me because he's busy doing something else. Well, he's got to do the sound effects. I said, well, I don't want to be the sound effects man. I'm the head writer. He's the sound effects man, by default, And they gave me shit about that for years. Oh, I'm the head writer. I was the head writer. But all right.
Did you hit it off immediately with him?
We all hit it. In retrospect, I didn't know much about radio. I as a comic, I would always go in and sit down, and they loved me coming on the shows because when I came on with a disc jockey in the morning, I was just firing jokes. Some of these guys, they have to pull stuff out of, but me, I'm boom, 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 boom. So it was vacation for them. But as far as sitting around, so I walked in and we clicked amazingly, all of us immediately. But I didn't know that because I had nothing to compare it to. For all I knew, this is how it worked. And I wasn't outspoken. I'd sit there, but I was a good laugher. I wasn't contributing all that much. I wasn't good on my feet because I didn't know when do I talk, when do I not talk. And it's Howard and Robin, and he's still hitting the drum and the cymbal at that point. But me and Fred hit it off because right away, me and Fred had a mutual appreciation society because he's the fastest, funniest, most talented guy in the world. And to just be hanging with him, and he thought I was great too. And we were totally different, but totally fun, both smart, not to blow my own horn, but
you have to be.
We just clicked and it was off to the races, and then after a couple of weeks, he said, I need something to do with you when you're here. And I said, well, I do a thing where I tell at the end of my act, sometimes I say, give me a subject, I'll give you a joke. And people say a subject and they try and stump me. But it was easy because whatever they said, I could open up the umbrella. Like if somebody said meatballs, I'd say, all right, Italian food, you know what I mean? And Kevin Sullivan used to do a thing called Stump the Band, which whether it was before or after Carson, I don't know what.
By the way, we had Kevin on.
I was going to say, Kevin Sullivan?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great character.
Oh, he's great.
And he was also on that bill. He was always on the bill at Hal Ennis. There's nobody that wasn't on that bill. But it was just really great fun. And as time went on, I would give Howard little ideas. The first actual note that I really remember that was just so classic. There's a guy named Al Rosenberg. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, sure.
Big Al Rosenberg. He wound up being on Fox in the morning and stuff like that. But he would come on the Stern Show once in a while as the deaf wrestler.
Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno. And he come on the show as Lou Ferrigno. And so he's sitting there and he's sitting next to me. And in the early days when we're on in the afternoon, if there was a home Knicks game, the show, instead of ending at 8, ended at 7. So the Knicks could start. And I'm sitting next to Rosenberg, and we immediately were friends, but it might not have been the first time, but just like Fred, because he's so brilliant. And Howard used to have to read liners, like little things about the commercials or something like that. And the show is just ending. So at 7 o'clock, the Knicks game is about to start. So every basketball fan in the world, in the tri-state area, is tuned to whether they like the Stern Show or not. They're tuned in, ready for the basketball game. And Lou Ferrigno's sitting next to me, and he's deaf. And Howard's reading. He goes, and Coca-Cola said they would like you to make sure that to get ready for the basketball game, you'll have lots of Coca-Cola and snacks. And I wrote snacks, snatch, and underlined them both and put it in front of Lou, in front of Al. And he goes, what did you say, Howard? What are you talking about, Lou? You can't say that. You can't say snatch. Lou, I said, and this is like, it was so, and went back and forth. And I'm sure guys were driving off the road. This is 1982 or no, 1983. No, Lou. I said snacks. You can't say that, Howard. Oh my God. And that was, to this day, sometimes people say, I was listening when,
That you bring up a good point. There were two sets of shows that I one was the War with DeBella. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was genius to go after him when you were going to open up that market. I don't know how real it was.
I had such a history with him. When I first started coming to Philadelphia, he would put me on and interview me. He had a 13 share, which was unheard of. 13, but I knew him
we
from
were
Long
at
Island.
the Comedy Factory Outlet. He would host on was it Friday nights or something like that? Yeah,
because he was the king.
He was.
He was a DJ at WLIR on Long Island, and he used to come into the studio where I worked. Him and Meg Griffin and Dave, another guy that I think is still. These guys are around for 70,000 years, but he was an asshole then. He's an asshole now. But me and him, we actually wrote a TV script together.
Who,
that
DeBella?
never went anywhere. Yeah, me and John DeBella.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a movie script called The Roadies, where the roadies drove the wrong semi, and when it was time to unload the equipment, they opened the semi and it was full of bales of pot. It was the most absurd thing. And it was with Epi. Do you know who Epi is? From My Father's Place on Long Island?
No.
Oh, that's a legendary character from Long Island. It's another terrific story, but the hell with that. So and then the Stern Show, we went to mornings. It's so funny. I pulled into the Virginia Beach Comedy Club. You ever worked at?
Yes.
The owner was Ricky Cheeks, and he had a scar from here to here. You couldn't live with the way he was cut, but he was. And I pulled in the parking lot, and he said, "Jackie, you got to call Nancy." This is before we were married. And I'm like, we never. If you're on the road, you didn't call home because it was so expensive.
Right.
You just didn't call. So you got to call Nancy. Either my parents were just killed in a fire, or my brother fell off his bicycle and got hit by, So I go in to call, and she says, "You got to call Howard." I'm like, okay, so I'm fired, I called him. He said, "Jackie, we're going to mornings starting on Monday. I need a price for 2 days a week. I want you to come on." And that's what the phone call was. And I was on 2 days a week. And within a month or two, I was on 5 days a week because I was passing so many notes. He was so much funnier when I was there. It was two minds instead of one mind.
Right.
That's not blowing my own horn. It's like this, we got twice as many. And once I'm doing that, all of a sudden I'm a conduit for Fred to pass me notes.
Right.
So now we got 3 different senses of humor. Howard's broad sense of humor, my stupid punchlines, and Fred's from fucking Pluto. And they're all coming out of one guy. And people are like, what the hell is going on? So
I remember
exciting.
those years. But I remember that build up to Philadelphia when you guys, it was the first of the syndicated cities, I think. And you could see what he was trying to do in making this, knocking DeBella off the throne. Like that was his. But to go down there,
and it took a while. It took a while. It was
it did. I remember.
And there was some nasty stuff. And there was this guy, Captain Janks, that used to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Is he
and,
still with
it
us, or did he pass?
Captain Janks?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know anything about the show for 20 years, but it got crazy and nasty and silly. And I should say we, Howard had spies everywhere. And a guy called up and said, John DeBella's wife is lying poolside while John's on the air. His wife is lying poolside, listening to the Stern Show and banging the pool boy.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's bad enough. That's a bad enough ammunition to give anybody, let alone Howard. And then the place went to the moon, and it took years. And we finally, when we beat him, that was a big deal.
It was.
And that big did you go to the funeral? It was like 5 or 10,000.
No, I listened to it though. I was listening to it.
So you heard the whole thing with Nancy, with the whole
Yes.
with my wife, because me and Howard were in the bathtub with Jessica Hahn, and nothing. We were in the bathtub with her for 20 seconds. I had my underwear on.
Tell
Nothing
people who
happened.
Jessica
Howard-
Hahn was, though, before we go.
yeah. Jessica Hahn was a church assistant who was from Babylon, Long Island, who wound up working with Jim Baker and another preacher and had a massive affair with Jim Baker, and then exposed the whole thing, the whole ring, and
Right.
with Jim Baker and Tammy Faye Baker. And she was hiding in her trailer in Babylon. But then Howard found out that she was a big fan of the show, and he talked her out of the trailer, and she came on the show. And then Dominic Barber heard her on the show, who was a low-rent lawyer, and he grabbed her and got her in Playboy.
Right.
And it was a whole monster.
She actually went with Kinnison for a while, didn't she? Date him
Oh
for a
yeah,
while?
yeah. He fell asleep while she was going down on him. It was just.
Oh my God.
And she was our mascot. She went everywhere with us. We had so much fun, But
Yeah.
that night, that was the night that we got in the bathtub was the night after were getting ready for the celebration the next day, where Scott the engineer played the corpse of John DeBella and Joey Buttafuoco. Do you remember that?
Oh
Joey
yeah,
Buttafuoco.
Mary
I forgot about him.
Jo Buttafuoco. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Joey Buttafuoco had an affair with a young girl, and she came to his house and
shot his
shot
wife.
Joey's wife in the ear. And they became such good friends of the show. And Howard put out his second book, and Dominic Barber, the lawyer, took us all to Little Italy. And there was like 20 of us at the table. And Mary Jo Buttafuoco loved me, and she loved my jokes. And she came and she sat on my lap. And I'm telling her jokes. I'm telling jokes to everybody. But she was deaf in this ear, and she kept saying, "What? What?" And I finally turned to the group and I said, I really wish that girl had a shot her on the other side of her head so she could hear my joke. Everybody went nuts. And she laughed harder than anyone. Oh, God. You can't make up that crap. You cannot make that up. Oh, God.
Kathy, you have a question?
No, Jackie, you were talking about some guy that was saying that it was the funniest thing that he almost drove off the road. And I'm going to tell you the funniest thing that was the most inappropriate thing I ever heard on the radio. You said it, and I almost drove off the road. It was probably 1996, 97. The show was on in the middle of the news. Totally inappropriate, but the funniest thing I've ever. And Robin's doing the news, and she does a story about some tragic woman that died from or had cancer, and her husband had killed her. He beat her in the head with a hammer, which was a tragic story. And you come on and you go, maybe he was trying to nail the hair back to her head.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now,
and I was like mortified, but in the moment, it was
I'm telling you, I'll tell you right now, this has haunted me forever because people thought the funniest thing in the show was when stories like that happened.
Yeah.
And I cackled or I laughed.
Yeah.
The truth is, early on in the show, when we were doing our thing, once in a while, Fred would go,
right.
And finally one day I said, "Fred, what is that stupid noise you're making?" He said, "That's you. You make that noise all the time when you're on stage or here." I said, "You're crazy." I did a show at Jimmy's Comedy Alley and recorded myself. And on the way home, I'm listening and I tell a joke and I must have been pacing the stage and all of a sudden I hear, I said, "That son of a bitch." And I gave Fred the tape. I said, "I can't believe it's here." Fred took that tape and proceeded to take all the tapes and took every laugh, every cackle, every howl, because I used to scream with my laughter on the show. And Fred had carts full of these. So every time they say a deer was hit by a truck and crashed into a million pieces, I'd roar. But
right.
It was never me. And Howard would go, "Oh, Jackie, how can you find that funny?"
Right,
And the stupid listeners are buying it. So people would say how funny I was, or they'd say what an asshole I was.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, I couldn't take the credit, but I also couldn't take the blame because it was all Fred. And what you just said, I am sure wasn't me. I'm sure it was Billy West doing it in my voice, but I might have written it. That's what's crazy.
Wow.
I might have written it, but
Yeah.
Billy West, because I
I would love to go back and see if that because it was like the delivery. I felt like it was you, but it was just it was so inappropriate. But like the tragedy of it,
as crazy as it sounds, and it's going to sound crazy because we were so inappropriate. I swear to you, that is not my sense of humor.
yeah,
I probably wouldn't do that.
You probably wouldn't have said that. Okay.
Howard used to say about about Mancow, this jockey in Chicago. His father passed away, and Howard said, "Oh, I want to dig up Mancow's daddy and have sex with his dead daddy's skull." And I wanted to, on a TV show once in a while, say the things you're about to see don't necessarily correspond to the view. Like, no, this didn't come from me. This is not my idea, because
that's normally not funny. My humor, but the way it was delivered, it was just like, oh my God, that's so wrong.
So wrong.
I have a question. I mentioned there were two shows.
That's funny. I'm actually going to ask Billy West, who's still a very good friend.
I would love to have him on, by the way.
I would love to know. I would love to know if he remembers that particular.
Write down that question and
I will.
Save it. I will. I just heard from him yesterday. He said, he misses me. I'm sure he would love to come on with you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so go ahead.
The other question I had, the 9/11 show. You were there.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there.
I don't
okay,
think
then never
you were.
mind.
No,
I was gone on March 1st, and the 9/11 show was however many months later, and Artie Lang didn't start in the show till a month after that. And people always talked about how crazy was that turnover, and did you guys, how was it? I can't believe you guys still get along. There was no crossover. They tried like 5 or 6 or 7 people after I left. It didn't work out, and then Artie popped up like 8 months later or 7 months later.
So where were you on 9/11?
9/11, I always said the day I go to a psychiatrist will be the day the world comes to an end. And then I was freaking out because I had left the show. I got divorced, moved into a house by myself, and quit drinking all at the same time. And they say if you do any one of those things, make sure you don't change anything else because it'll make you crazy. So things were weird. And somebody said, hey, I know this psychiatrist. He's a really good guy. He's a big fan of the show. And I know he'd love to see you. The only time he had free was a Tuesday at 7:00 in the morning. So I go to Community Drive in New Hyde Park and go to see this guy. He's a really great guy. And we talk and he gives me a prescription for something. And we're yakking and we had a great time. And I guess I left his place at whatever the timing was, 8 or 8:15. I know right where I was. I was on Community Drive. And all of a sudden, I think it was Judy DeAngelis on 1010 said, whoa, it says a plane hit one of the trade centers. And everybody's like, whoa, and immediately this has happened before. Right. You're thinking a small aircraft, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure this exists on tape somewhere. However much later, she came and said, this said, she never stammered, and she's stammering because this says a second plane hit the other tower, and it was like she couldn't believe what she was reading, and no wonder, and it was absolutely crazy. And I was split up from Nancy at the time, and I called home and I said, "Are you watching TV?" I said, "Turn on the news. I'll be right there." I went to my old house with the big old TV, and I got there and we turned it on, and you couldn't believe it. And I had this prescription, and I said, I got to go get my prescription filled. And I went to get my, I'm talking about a block away. I'm like, I wonder what the hell else is going to happen. And by the time I got back, they'd hit the Pentagon, right. And then we watched. On the big
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. That you
no, but it's such a.
It was a fun. his time on the air was what got me through that morning, because I was out of comedy at that point, and I was working for the Association of Retarded Citizens, and I had this young man with me, profoundly disabled, and I didn't know what, I just was listening to it and
Everybody said he handled it so perfectly.
I had totally new respect for him after that. And it's on. You can listen to it on YouTube. But anyway,
And I'm
let's
sure
talk
you want
about
to,
you.
Jackie.
Huh?
I'm sure you want to.
So
I'll put it on an endless loop.
Okay, do that. So you move on. You move on. Now you're back. You're back doing what you started doing, which is working clubs and theaters and.
Well, I was a little skittish at first because the Stern Show was so ubiquitous. I didn't know how much crap I was going to get, and I didn't even look at my email for like a month.
Mhm.
And then finally I said, I got to look, and all the emails were so wonderful and so positive. And God knows what the first month, there probably would have been things I really wish I had seen, And then finally I went and dabbled. They had just opened the new Laugh Factory down on 42nd and 8th. And I said, I'll go down there. And it was old home week, and I hadn't seen anybody in so long. And Tom Dreesen's there and all these people. And Tony Tung, did you know him? He said, Jackie, you got to go up.
Camacho.
And I went up and told like 5 or 10 jokes. And
Wait, you can't let a name like that go by without explaining
Tony
why Tony Camacho is known as Tony Tung.
His tongue looked like this.
No lie.
It was.
He would take it out. Yeah.
God, a Mexican family could have lived in his tongue,
It literally, I want to say it would come down to here, right? Right.
But he was very popular.
He's still around.
Now, see, if a guy said that would make him popular with the women, you guys would get mad, but you're allowed to say that.
Well, I'm thinking with the men or the women.
Okay.
Right?
I guess I forget what year it is.
Yeah. Come on, Jackie.
All right.
Hey,
I'm taking a dark
say
turn.
it. I like a big tongue too. Okay.
Now, see that?
Put that on a turnstile.
You get about 3 times the size of that one, and you're talking about Tony's tongue. Yeah.
And I'm no slouch either.
No, that's an impressive tongue.
He was the Milton Berle of tongues.
Yeah, but it wasn't nice. It was a big, huge hamburger.
It was. It looked like you could buy slices of it in a deli, like a cow.
Can I get a quarter pound of the tongue?
It looked like a cow's tongue. Oh God! I used to work at a country club, and I used to go to the butcher, and you have to go in the back to get something. I go in with them, and they'd have the huge cow tongue with the big hunk at the and all I could think of is every time I slice it, like ow,
Hey, what are you doing?
Move.
All right, so let's jump to the present, because we've been on for an hour already, and I could talk to you all night, but
I was in your documentary. I heard by rumor, and my documentary finally got distribution.
Congratulations! What's the name of it?
It's not going to be out. It's Random Media, and it should be out like they said probably March or April. I guess it takes a long time to get it in, and it's just called Joke Man.
Okay.
It was made by Ian Carr of IKA Collective, who was my radio partner when I had a radio show. I had a radio show on the Stern Network for eight years called Jackie's Joke Hunt, which I still think is my finest hour, that name. And it was an hour of filthy jokes. It was just so much fun. So much fun. So, and of course, he didn't pay me nothing hardly. And they said, well, we're going to use it. And then they'd play it 6 times a week, Nothing changes.
But you were doing when we were filming my documentary, and you came to, what was it?
Gotham?
Gotham. It was in Gotham.
You
were in the process of filming yours at that point already, right?
Well, I was there at Gotham to host the 100th anniversary show, or the 100th show celebration, or else I was there for the there was one show where it was me and Artie Lang, Mario Cantone, Gilbert Gottfried, and some very, very funny black guy, but I didn't know who he was. I think that's the night.
Eddie Murphy.
And we were downstairs in the.
We were. I think. No, you know what? I think it was for Tom, or my manager, Tom's showcase.
Oh yeah,
was it the
right.
showcase? That's what it was.
I was hosting his showcase.
Yeah,
and
right.
I had to work clean, and he was sweating the whole time, and I was absolutely crystal clean, and he
sweats about everything. We love him
please.
though. We love him. So now you're still active in performing, right? You're still.
I did like 4 shows in Boston with Lenny. You know Lenny Clark?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know him, but I know who he is.
Me and Lenny Clark and Christine Hurley did. Steve Sweeney was supposed to be part of it, but he disappeared. But we did 4 shows in August, and it was just spectacular. But I hadn't really worked since then until this past Friday and Saturday night, and that's a long time, to do a gazillion jokes. But you worry, and then you go up, and it's like you just fell off a horse.
Yeah.
But I had 2 killer shows Friday and Saturday, and comedians are just so fucked up. I always think I'm the same guy, and it's funny because I was just with my ex-wife. We went to a funeral of all things, a wake, and when we're living together for 20 years, and I always think I'm the same guy, and she'd say, "Well, it's pretty obvious who had a killer show last night." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because to me, I'm me. But I guess we walk around with a goddamn spring in our step the next day, and you're not even aware of it, Yep. And conversely, I can't even tell you that because I've never had a bad show.
Bombed. No,
but if I ever had a bad
You've
show,
heard.
Oh,
I've heard from others, But conversely, the Fort Lauderdale comic strip, you work 7 nights. There were no night off. Monday to blah, blah, blah. And Friday and Saturday, you'd have 400 people and blow the roof off the place. And your last night was Sunday, and it'd be 12 assholes in the crowd, and you went home with the taste of that show in your mouth.
That's right.
I was like, couldn't you switch it?
Yep. Wherever you leave off, it's the high or the low.
So all right. So what you've got the movie coming out. What else is just like we've got 6 listeners now.
No, we don't.
8. We had 8, but 2 of them died. Yeah.
All right.
We've got 6.
If you want to ask me a question or be my friend, you can email me. I got a guy who answers all my email. Me. Mm-hmm. My email is jokeland, jokeland @AOL.com. And my current obsession is I had these jokes. It's a long story, but I did these jokes for a couple stations in Phoenix. And I said, listen, I got an idea. Let's do 1 joke. Instead of Jackie does 5 jokes, Jackie does 20 jokes. Let's do 1 joke. Jackie's 420 joke, marijuana time. Every day at 420, play 1 joke. And that way, if people want to hear it and remember it, they don't have to worry about the other jokes coming. They just have to remember that one. And they say, hey, Julia, listen to this joke. Oh, that's great. Where'd you hear that? Oh, I heard that on Jackie's 420 joke on WQQQ. It worked like a charm. We did it for 3 or 4 months, and then the goddamn pandemic hit and killed everybody's everything. So I had all these jokes. And then this whole TikTok thing started, and I realized that I had all these jokes that didn't have any promo. No, hi, I'm Jackie, just me giggling, telling a joke and giggling. And I had like a couple hundred of them. So I started putting them on TikTok. Why not? And people started responding to them. Right now, I have a joke that has 987,000 views, and I'm trying to get to 1 million. So I'm telling everybody.
Can you tell it on here so we can get some of those views?
Or give us.
No, if I tell it on here, nobody's going to go to
do it. We got to go to his website, right?
The best way to go to it is to go to twitter.com/Jackie Martling, and I've got that TikTok joke pinned. Do you know what that means? The pinned thing is what's always there, and it's just me begging.
How do they find out where you are?
For 40 years. No, at the bottom, it's twitter.com/Jackie Martling.
No, but how do they find out where you're appearing? Where you're going to be appearing?
Oh, everything's on jokeland.com.
Okay,
but that's on there too.
I have a suggestion for your thing. I think you should call it One Toke Joke.
One toke joke, one joke toke.
Yeah.
I will do that and say I thought of it.
Yeah, please. Well, 6 people listen to this, so
Well,
no
Now,
one will know.
where do you do comedy?
I've all over Philly. I haven't performed in about a year, 2 years, because I've been busy with the management stuff and the radio and COVID.
Found a boyfriend. You got yourself a boyfriend.
I got no
fooling around.
boyfriend. I met. I was talking to somebody at a bar. This guy goes to me, goes, "Hey, you seem like a smart lady. You ever been married? How come?" I go, "Cause I'm a smart lady."
Ah,
He was like, "Yeah,
well,
okay."
does that mean you like ladies or you're just a
I
smart
do.
lady?
Yeah, no, yeah, I prefer.
I didn't want to say that, but yes.
Well, like I didn't know immediately.
No, you didn't know immediately.
Nobody knows I'm gay. I still got the whole world convinced I'm
Using Nancy as a beard.
Nancy has a wang like,
She's hung like a horse.
Philadelphia. This is so funny. And there is no evidence of this anywhere. And the few things I've heard of this show, it is, you can tell that it's edited out. There was a girl that worked at the Comedy Factory outlet at the door, but she also was a comic. And that's how it works.
I know who you're talking about. I don't
Maria.
remember her name, but I know who it was. Yeah.
Maria.
Yeah.
So I never listened to the Stern Show. I just didn't. I didn't know about it to begin with. And then once I was on it, I never listened, like during Best Of, I never listened when we were on it. But in the very beginning, I did listen because I would give Howard stuff for like Mama Look a Boo Boo Day, who was his black helicopter reporter, or a couple of things, just trying to help out. And I remember giving him stuff. Like the first time I handed him stuff, he like gave me a funny look, like, do you really think I need your help? But then we started doing Stump the Comedians, and Mrs. Flemstein, Fred would play Julia. Kelly Rogers used to go on stage on Sunday nights. Joe Mullen wasn't there, so we used to all go batshit. And Kelly Rogers would go on stage as Shecky Flemstein, and he'd do like Catskills, and he was such an asshole. It was great. And Mr. Fred starts calling in, and it's this little nondescript. You couldn't tell if it was a woman or a man. Hello, Howard. Howard. And he'd ask, because the listeners called with terrible jokes. So I give Fred jokes, and he had jokes that were as dirty as you could get, but yet get away with them on AM radio. That way we'd be sure to have some jokes. Hello, Howard. Hello, Howard. And at some point, I said, oh, is that Mrs. Flemstein again? Oh, is that Mrs. Flemstein again? And all of a sudden, at one point, Howard goes, where'd we get that name, Mrs. Flemstein? I said, oh, I named her that. And Robin was like, yeah, you named her. Right. So meanwhile, I didn't get credit from Howard and Robin, but I got Kelly Rogers pissed off at me for stealing his name. I got it from both sides.
We gotta close, but I gotta tell this story because it involves you, and it changed my life. We're in Philadelphia.
Well, that and other things.
We're in Philadelphia. There were 3 major clubs in the city at that time. There was a Comedy Factory outlet, Comedy Works, and Going Bananas on the other side of town. Barney, right? And I was at the Clack Club, but everybody stayed above. We stayed in Barney's apartment above the club when we worked there. But everybody would come there after they were done working. We'd meet
the legendary Wid.
Everybody.
Wid.
And you couldn't see the other person with all the pot smoke. It was just one of those things.
The finest days ever.
Oh, he comes in one night, and I'm somewhere else, in my days. He tells me, because I got a joke for you, and I go, well, it's the Aristocrats. He goes into this joke. I don't know, Jackie, maybe 10 minutes you were setting it up. I had no idea what the punchline was. He gets to the punchline. I thought I was going to die. Laughing.
Do you remember this, Jackie?
No, he don't remember.
I remember that I did that all the time. When in the Aristocrats movie, I actually get down. The Aristocrats poster, everybody in that movie is 5 times more famous than me. But they had to put me in the movie because Provenza and Gillette said when they Googled the Aristocrats, they only got 2 hits, and they were both my website. Because I had heard the joke from Dave Horth, not from Dave Horth. I heard from a real weird character. He was a magician from Los Angeles. His name was literally Martin Lewis, which is so funny. And he told the joke to me and Nelson and Adam Leslie, and I thought I was going to die. And then it became my favorite joke. And then I saw it was in this joke book by this guy, Gershon Legman, who is referred to in The Aristocrats, his book. And me and him were pen pals from 1977. That's a whole long story. Like when you ravenously search out jokes, and I found his joke book, and we were pen pals. And then, so I put his version of the joke on my website. And then in 1998, I put out a Simon & Schuster joke book, and I had my version of The Aristocrats.
How long was it in the?
And no, it just the joke in Legman's is short.
Oh.
Mine is fairly short because there was so much bullshit to that whole thing. Because even a Shaggy Dog story, if you're telling a joke just for the sake of wasting people's time to break their balls with no punchline is one thing. But if you actually have a punchline you want to work, there's a diminishing returns.
Right.
And I swear to you, I told that joke to Gilbert. And the joke, the way Gilbert told it at the Hugh Hefner roast, which is in The Aristocrats, is exactly the length that I told them to him. Because at a certain point, too much information. You want to get dirtier, boom. And
But at that night, I don't. It wasn't the pot. I know it wasn't the pot. I know it wasn't the drinking. That was just the funniest goddamn thing.
Well, when you're with 5 or 6 or 7 comedians, like that's your finest hour. But when they interviewed me for the movie, I actually got down on the floor and flailed because I was on the road in 1986, and I called Nancy. I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit around all day doing nothing, waiting to be on stage for 45 minutes. I'm losing my fucking mind. She said, well, just quit the road. Something will happen. And I walked in and said, Howard, I'm not going on the road anymore, because I used to not be on the show if I was on the road. Right. And that's when I went boom to 5 days a week. But when I decided that Saturday night, I decided this is my last week on the road, or however many I'd left, I got so drunk. And then I was telling the bartender and the staff at Zany's in Nashville, and I literally ran across and slid on my stomach on the floor, and then went The Aristocrats in all my drunkenness. And I could still remember, I know you get more and more and more crazy into it, So
aren't you thankful video wasn't around? Like, cell phone video wasn't around back in the
No,
day?
you know what? You think so, but no,
No. Okay.
Long before there was, the reality TV and the hidden cameras and all this stuff. I'll never forget, we were at one of those things where we were sitting around. It was probably at Barney's, all these people sitting around, and it was so fucking funny. And I can see him doing it. That big skinny moron at the time, legendary Wid, jumps up and says, "This is a show. This is the best show. This should be a show." And you know what? To this day, nobody has actually caught that. Provenza's Green Room, all these shows, because it's like a scientific experiment. The minute you introduce an experiment, it ceases to be the way it was.
Barney's, you've never been there, but it was a tiny apartment, right? And they had Vince D'Antona's suite. Vince D'Antona was a ventriloquist and Barney's favorite act, but it's over the door, wherever we slept, the comic slept in the Vince D'Antona suite. But after the after parties, after we all were done working that night, we were all jinked up because we're all, we all had these killer shows on a Saturday. And it was magical, man. It was, I treasure those days.
I was dating an 18-year-old actress who was red hot and so horny and so fun and so crazy. And I lost her because she was traveling the country in a Neil Simon show called I'll think of it. And her deal was she was allowed to bring people in. And I once every couple of weeks because she was only 18 years old. So I went to go. Neil Simon's company flew me to Canada and to Toronto and to different places, and I just went to see her in Philadelphia. And after the show, she said, "Let's go back to the hotel." And I said, "No, I got to go hang with the boys. Come on, it'll be so much fun." And she was like, "Fuck you," And to this day, I can't. But there wasn't it wasn't even a let me think it over.
No,
you know what I mean?
no.
It was like
That
it
was half
just-
the fun of going down there, going on the road down there.
Yeah, and all that travel. It's like it was just spectacular, just spectacular.
Well, you're pretty spectacular, and I really want to. And we got to wrap up.
Lexi Kennan.
Yeah, let me-
Alexis Kennan, Kenin. Look her up. She was in Little Darlings, and she was in Pretty in Pink, and she committed suicide but it wasn't until 2 years after we broke up. We didn't even broke up. We were just bang mates. But
I'm
she
sorry
was
that
so
she
cool.
did.
I am too.
Oh.
And it was a suspicious death, which makes it all the more interesting. But I wouldn't know where. I'm not a suspect.
Well, that certainly is an up note to end the show on.
I didn't do it.
Oh, good. Well, let's see.
Where were you?
I want to thank you. Let me thank you. God damn it! Shut up for 5 minutes. Let me thank you. I thank you for being my friend all these years, and even when I came out as Julia, you weren't a judge or anything. Like you were just a friend, and I love you for that. And you've always been very supportive, and thank you for being here tonight too.
Well, it is of course my pleasure, and for a guy who, tells all my whole time, Polish jokes and black jokes and Jewish jokes and midget jokes. Like there's nobody gentler than me, and that it's. I tell people if you see any animosity in my act, you're seeing something that isn't there. It's not for anything but that, so we can all laugh. And God knows we need that now. And I'm so thrilled with your amazing success. It's just some of the guys and girls revel in the other people's success, and other people bite their fingers. You know what I mean? And they're two distinct characters. Yeah. But and some of us revel in the other people's success, and then go home and bite their fingers.
You were there, and I'll tell you who else. Joey Cola, who
we just had him on our show last Monday with Leonora, his gorgeous wife. He is such a great character.
He's a sweetheart. The night
did you have him on your show yet?
No, I'm gonna call him. I want to call him in the near future. But you didn't mention your podcast, so why don't you mention it while we're?
My podcast is Stand Up Memories, with a hyphen, but I don't think you need the hyphen to get to it. But it's standupmemories.com. We just started. Joey was in the first 4 episodes of season 3, and our first 2. They wanted me to do this podcast, and I never really wanted to do it. I love going and being on them and being funny and telling my bullshit stories and just being fun and laughing with people. I didn't know if I wanted to sit in Johnny Carson's chair, but they said, come try it. And I said, all right, my first guest, I'm going to get Peter Bales. And I got Peter Bales to be my first guest. We did 25 shows before we had a guest. I'm sure you know Peter.
I know Peter.
Ran the whole
as long as I know you, yeah.
And then we had Danny McKenna from Rascals. The guy, the door guy, the red-haired guy at Rascals.
I don't remember.
Chief cook and bottle washer. Then we had Rory Rosegarden, who was my manager briefly until Ray Romano stole him away. And then, not really, but when Ray hit his home run, Rory got very busy. And then we had Dave Creblay, who was a local journalist. And who else did we have? And somebody else. And John Blend, who's another.
John.
A couple local guys. Yeah, Blend's a great guy. He's been around forever.
He is universally adored. I have never heard anybody say a bad thing about John Blend.
No, and he's got pictures of him with
everybody.
You talk about Forrest Gump, my God.
Yeah.
And the podcast is fun, and so it's audio and video, and it's decent quality. And we sit there and I make fun of Peter, and he's a professor. He's a history professor.
Yes, he is. Yeah, as
well as a comic. And
we made good choices in our lives, haven't we?
He's the first guy that dragged me to the comic strip in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I got past there. I can still remember going up there, and I came off, and Lucian said, we think we'd like to have you, Jackie, but we think maybe a few less fart jokes.
And
I actually
that
get back
should be
and
the
did
name of
less-
your book, by the way.
A few less fart
jokes.
jokes.
Yeah.
My book is called The Joke Man. That's my autobiography, which I will be sending to both of you characters. If you'll give me a street address, you got
All right.
text me a street address.
I
I'll
will.
remind you.
Okay.
And what else I got going? And you got to go to twitter.com/Jackie Martling, and you got to view this stupid joke and pass it to friends. It's a great joke. It's worth the trip. I'm going through my Rolodex. I'm texting everybody because not that I get a prize or anything, but I want to get to 1 million. And I'm close, man. I'm 13,000 away.
985, you said?
980.
Use your finger. Use your finger.
I'm going to give you an update. Yeah, use your damn thing. I'm going to give you an update. Look at this. Red hot on the air. I can't believe the crap that's on this thing. Hold on. Yeah, I see it. The Spanish girl with thighs. The
While
size
you're
of my
looking, Coker is your middle name?
Ow! Ow!
What?
Ow!
What
You hit it,
happened?
You broke it?
1.1 million.
Hey, it's like the Jerry Lewis telethon here.
I'm not making it up. It just happened.
Oh man.
See what happens when you come on our
That's
show,
because
Jackie?
the show isn't
Oh.
even on the air yet, and it hit.
That was
wait.
a real moment, Jay. That was a real moment we just had. I had no idea.
I'm very happy for you. Very proud of you.
It means nothing.
No.
No.
Like everything else in my life.
Well,
Nothing.
we're gonna go. We have to go, Jackie. I love you, man. I love you.
If you ever need me for anything, I'm here. Get Joey Cola on the show,
I'm
and
gonna.
we're gonna do Gabe Abelson, I think, next week, and he's gonna be our first.
He's on my list too. I want to get Rosie O'Donnell too. I'm trying to figure out how to get to her. I didn't want to ask
Peter
Joey.
Bales. Peter Bales can get you to her.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's easy. It's easy to get to them. Whether or not people do it is a whole nother thing. Now, when am I going to get to see you do your act?
You talking to Kathy or me?
Yeah, no, Kathy.
Oh, well, I don't have any shows lined up right now. But
How
I tell
you
you what,
doing?
nothing.
She's
Not a
going
good
to be.
self-promoter.
Not
Is she
good.
good?
Yeah,
Is she funny?
teach her a couple of. Yes,
Julie, am I funny?
Yes, you are funny.
She better say
Let me
that.
tell you,
Chicken
Jack.
and-
She is, and we gotta go. If it wasn't for her, she was my manager when I first came back to comedy before Tom. She's the one that got me onto America's Got Talent. If it weren't for her, none of this would have happened.
Well, Jesus, why don't you say that?
Well, yeah, you
Well,
haven't
we gotta
shut
do
up
this
for
show
an hour and a
again.
half. I've been trying to talk here.
Just introduce her as that. And Jackie, here's my friend who got me on America's Got Talent.
I love
Well, this was
Jackie.
about you tonight, Jackie.
Yeah.
This was
Okay.
about you. All
I
right.
accept.
I love you, my
Oh.
friend.
Hey, I love you, and this was a pure joy. And I always tell people, I know that I yak on and on and on, and you will not believe how much editing I did and didn't go down so many alleyways because it sounds like I didn't skip one. You have no idea.
You know what? If I,
Great.
Jim is going to kill me because he always tells me, just let them go. Let him. We can always cut it. And he's probably pissed off at me now because I'm ending the show now.
Hey, Jim, fuck you. Nice to meet you. Julia, anything you need, you let me know.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Thank
Jackie.
you.
Text me the address.
All right, and give Barbara a hug for me. Give Barbara a hug for me.
Right now, right after I have something to eat.
And give her sex.
care.
Give her sex too. All right.
Bye, Jackie. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. I loved it.
honey.
Thank you.
All right.
Love you. Well, wow, what a show. That was fun, wasn't
What
it?
a nice man.
Yeah, he really is a good
I
guy.
didn't
Yeah.
think he was really that nice, but he is.
Really? Why would you not think that?
Because I
Oh,
didn't know him like you know.
He's a good guy.
He seems like it. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, every week, the shows we do, I'm loving them more and more. I didn't think I was gonna like doing this, but this is a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Well, you've picked good guests. You've had really good guests so far, and
I'm running out of friends, so
you better make some more, sister.
we need a talent coordinator.
You better-
Anyway, you know,
better get popular quick.
Jim is honking us to do these polls because he wants people to respond first. So let's come up with a poll.
We'll come up
for
with a
tonight's show.
question.
Yeah, this is for you people out there, all 6 of you.
Would
Go
you
ahead.
like to see Jackie back on the show?
Yes or no?
Or maybe?
And here's question number 2. Would you like to see either one of us back? Yes.
Yes.
Or yes. Okay.
No.
No. All right. Great. This was fun. I had a great job, and I love you, Kat.
I love you too.
I love you too.
I love you more.
I love you.
All right, listen. Have a great rest of the night.
Oh, yeah. I know you're gonna go
Okay.
watch the game. All right.
Got a big
World Series game.
World
Yeah.
Series. Phil, did
Okay.
anyone tell you?
Well, let's give the sign off. You ready for the? Ready?
Mwah.
Cue the music.